guys? Welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 88. Sink or swim this week. We do have our own free Discord, Patreon as well. If you guys are interested in that, DM us on the Twitters and or X. Eventually, I'll get there on that one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I got Howler McSpanky with me tonight. How's it going, guys?
It's good, man. You know who couldn't swim? Dennis Allen. Get out of
Nope. See ya.
You're done.
Thanks, Derek.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was what's his name, just trying to tell the coaches get him out of here. Kendre Miller.
Kendra Miller.
Yeah, sure. He's like, get him out of here. I want to play.
He's got a lot of pull in the organization. I tell you what.
He's got a lot of time on the IR, so he's been spending time in the front office because he can't play. So he's just out there just be like, hey, listen, this guy sucks. You got to get him out of here.
For sure. He got a lot of pulled hamstrings is what he's got. Oh, yeah.
Oof.
So, lead us right into the news there. Dennis Allen was fired, along with the Raiders firing Luke Getsy and a few other offensive coaches. Quarterback coach. Things are going great. McSpanky, I just want to get your take real quick. Is Antonio Pierce going to survive the year?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
100%.
I think he survives a year, but I think they should move on after that. I don't know exactly what they did with the contract, but to me, he seems like a solid defensive coordinator, right? You know how what's his name from the Texans? He was a good coach, but not a good front office guy.
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. Yeah. So some guys I think are solid coaches, but they need to be focusing on one thing. I think he can hype up the guys and they can play well for him. But to me, I don't think he can put it all together. As we've seen.
It's one of those things too. I heard this analogy. It's like it's one thing to be a successful substitute teacher. You come in as an interim. It's another thing when you're the guy, and all of a sudden you're having to handle discipline and stuff. When you're the sub, you can just kind of be fun or whatever, and just the players love you. But excuse me. At the end of the day, when you're the head coach, you do have to be hold guys accountable. And I think there might be a learning curve that he's going through right there, and he didn't exactly have a veteran coaching staff to support him, which was bad. And the quarterback coach who was fired, I forget his name, but I saw a stat he was fired from 7 straight jobs over the last 7 years. So
crazy.
God, why did we hire him in the first place? But that's another story.
So
his offenses were terrible, and they were in Chicago too, so that shouldn't have. Anyways,
I hope in Chicago, that's not Waldron. It's I hope
Shane Waldron.
It is Waldron. Okay, I hope he's fired next because holy moly, Caleb looks terrible, and that offense is something.
Yeah. They're
but before we move on, I doubt this would ever happen, but with Brady in the front office, or not really in the front office, and ownership, think he can get Bill over there.
I mean, man, we've already done a Patriots stint with Josh McCown.
I know,
I don't want to do it again.
Bill's different,
misery, man.
But I just don't think it'd ever happen. I think he would go to a better situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think you want to try to hire the coaching legend past his prime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like there's many examples where that doesn't work out for you, and so I think you're better off. I think really what the Raiders need to do, I think Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham can run the defense really well. They need a veteran offensive coordinator or a young, a good, what's his face from the Texans who came over from San Francisco and just thank you, Bobby Slowick. Yeah. They need something like that. That's just creative and has some free licensing to just kind of do what they need to do. None of these just rehash fired offensive coordinators.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Norv Turner.
Yeah.
Oof.
And I think we've seen it. Nobody hired Bill Belichick. I know he was looking for a specific job, but I just think the NFL has moved on from that type of coach, in my opinion.
There's a spot.
Yeah.
The Cowboys. Belichick. Yeah,
Belichick
and Jerry Jones doing a press conference together.
I just feel like the NFL has moved on from that type of coach. The players aren't like that really anymore. Just my way or the highway type of thing. I feel like we've seen it. That's
It
not
takes
how it is.
it takes a certain kind of person to buy into it for teams and that sort of thing. And I just don't think like free agents, like how often did free agents want to go to New England? I think it's because they're like, I don't want to play for that
For
kind
Bill.
of structure.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's more fun other places.
And there's some really good like up and coming offensive coordinators. I feel like that plenty of them deserve a job, and so I just don't think Bill's going to land anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will,
think
but I personally don't think he should. But
I think if Bill goes anywhere, it's going to be like primed to win. Like, so when the Lions fired Jim Caldwell, we thought Patricia was going to get us over that hump into the playoffs, and I think that that's going to be kind of the type of team that would take Bill on. Is like we just need to get past that little hump there.
Yep.
The Bears.
I don't know what team are they that close. I don't know.
I mean, they're like
defense is good. The offense is just can't get out of its own way.
Yeah,
coordinator
that is fair. Yeah, I mean, Bill did wonders for Mac Jones's career. I will say that. Should we pop into the trades?
Trades galore.
Okay.
Nothing crazy, but just a bunch of them.
Yeah. Yeah, some fun stuff. Khalil Herbert to Cincinnati. I mean, that's less fun for me as a big Chase Brown guy. Jonathan Mingo to Dallas for a 4th-round pick.
Ouch.
Every other wide receiver went for like a 6th that was traded this year? Okay. Zadarius Smith to Detroit. Dude, oh my Lord. I've been refreshing my Twitter feed for 3 weeks waiting for this trade to come through. Honestly, like the stress is lifted off my shoulders. We finally did it. Anyway, Marshawn Lattimore to Washington. Tre'Davious White to Baltimore.
Big Mike Williams to Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. Did I skip Mike Williams to Pittsburgh? Jeez, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, big Mike Williams.
Steelers have been trying to get a wide receiver for, I don't know, a year now, it seems like, and they finally got one. Although it's probably not the one they wanted. It seems like they were in the race for, Ayuk and a bunch of these guys, Cooper and Christian Kirk, and then they settle on big Mike Williams, who's having probably one of the worst years of his career. So I don't know if that's going to help Russell Wilson, but it can't hurt, I guess. It's an extra body out there.
He does what Russell Wilson's good at, though. He runs down the field, jumps high, catches
rainbow balls.
Yeah. I could see it being like, not like world breaking or anything, but beneficial just to the Pittsburgh offense as a whole, as long as he stays healthy.
Do you think Jonathan Mingo will do anything in Dallas?
No.
I don't either.
No. He couldn't do anything in Carolina, and there wasn't a wide receiver on that team other than Deontay Johnson for.
There's 3 wide receivers on our depth chart right now in Carolina.
Good Lord.
And one of them's an undrafted free agent. So.
And he wasn't starting in there. Yeah.
Go Kids.
And there's that video of. Yeah, no, I got you. And then there's that video on Twitter that Jonathan Mingo is like trying to catch the ball but jumping out of bounds. It's.
Oh yeah, I remember that happening.
It's bad. So no, I don't like. Out of all these, I think obviously the defensive one with Zadarius Smith is, in my opinion, the biggest one there. Lattimore, I know he's banged up a bit, but that's good for Washington. And then with Zach Moss out, I think Khalil Herbert will get some run. Obviously, he got nothing in Chicago, but I think he will get some run. And he's to me like a little bit kind of a similar back as Chase Brown. But I think Chase Brown is kind of, formed into more of like an every down back. And so I think they'll just sprinkle in Khalil Herbert in there. And so I think he might be useful on a bye week in like a deeper league. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously he won't be useful this Thursday. I don't even know if he'll be active. He might be though, because of Zach Moss being out the rest of the year. But yeah, I think, the defensive ones are much more like bigger news than the offensive guys.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think Khalil Herbert's a little bit better of inside the tackles runner than he gets credit for. And I don't know if you guys heard, but I saw a little clip of Joe Burrow at his press conference talking about Khalil Herbert, about like how it's possible he could be out there, because he's like, yeah, he's standing right next to me, so I can just tell him like, here's what you need to do on this play, which is kind of funny. So which to me speaks volumes that they're desperate for someone else to be out there to give, even if it's not like a large role, but just to give Chase Brown a breather.
Sure,
he can't play 100% of the snaps.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's against Baltimore, and they still defend the run, so I don't expect too much even out of Chase Brown this week.
No.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, because they have after Chase Brown and Khalil Herbert, they have Kendall Milton and Travion Williams. So obviously, neither of those two guys are doing much. Milton's a rookie. We haven't seen him do anything this year. So I think he could be out there. But I think for like this week, Chase Brown is a good play just because I think out of pure volume, he's going to be used quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right. Another week, another slew of injuries. It seems like never ending this year. We can't just survive 1 week. We got Dak onto IR with a hamstring. I believe it's like partially torn, is what I read. CeeDee Lamb is week to week with a shoulder. Drake London hip pointer, that's week to week. Chris Olave's got another concussion, which feels like 3 games in a row. So he's kind of in that like Tua, like we might not see Chris Olave for a little while here. Eric All tore his ACL, season ender. Zach Moss is out indefinitely with a neck injury.
Oof, there are some rough ones. Yeah. The Eric All one, I know it's not like the headliner, but that one's a bummer because he was coming off an ACL injury from when he was in college. He was starting to get healthier again, and he was playing really well. He was starting to get a little bit more snaps in the run. So that one's disappointing because now it kind of sets him back again. The Olave one is scary, and like is there any reason for him to come back? In any kind of timeline, like the Saints are trading off all their pieces. There's no reason, right? Like they're not competing for anything. Like, would you be surprised if he sat out for the next month? Just have a rehab.
No,
he should. I don't know if you guys saw, but he's had way more concussions than I thought, and I think he's had almost 2 or 3 just 1 or 2 this year. And so I just think it would be good for him. They've lost 7 games in a row. Like I think they're gonna play well this week because of they always teams always play well when they have a new head coach. But I'm not necessarily saying they're gonna win. But yeah, I just personally think he should sit out and get right, and hopefully they have a new quarterback next year that throws the ball in a good spot for him to not get killed.
Oh man. Oh
yeah.
man.
I think Dak is.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Dak is pretty big. Obviously, he hasn't played well, but I think it's pretty big for CeeDee Lamb. I know he's banged up a little bit, but and also Jake Ferguson, I think it's pretty big for him as well. So we'll see. I know some people are wanting to see Trey Lance. We've seen that before. We don't need to see it again. I think as well, they may play him though because obviously the Cowboys are not doing well. I don't necessarily want to say they're out of it already, but it's close. So
they're pushing it.
Yeah, it's very close. So we'll see. I think this is a good spot to. I know some people would say to go out and buy Dak on a rebuilder, but I don't know what's going on with him, and he got his money, and I don't know. He just has looked really bad. I'm kind of out on him.
That's the thing. It's like before the injury, that was 3 straight games of him being well underperforming. So I was going to ask, is he even? I've seen some Dak deals get done, in quite a few leagues. Some myself. I don't know. Like I haven't been motivated to go out and buy him even on rebuilding teams because 1, he's older, and 2, he hasn't been playing all that well. What do you think the market is on him though? Like you said you got some deals done. Do you happen to remember off the top of your head?
Well, so last week we really hyped up Bo Nix, and before this injury, I just moved Dak for Bo Nix straight up. I know some people will say that's crazy, but I think it was pretty good after that injury. And then I have 17-1 in a league, so that's I think 8-1 or maybe or something like that. So and I got what was it here? It was Bo Nix and QJ for Dak in a second, and I almost took it for just Bo Nix, but since QJ was coming my way, might as well just take QJ. I don't necessarily need to use him. I have some injuries, so I probably will use him. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but I just feel like right now Bo Nix and Dak Prescott are almost in that same boat. So any flip, if you're in a contending team, you need those points. I don't really think Cooper Rush is going to keep you afloat for those weeks until Dak is going to come back and say they lose over those 4 games that he has to be out. If they go 1-3 or even 2-2, with how Washington and Philadelphia are playing, I just think it's going to be super hard for Dallas to even, compete for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Would you try to acquire Cooper Rush at all if you maybe just lost Dak and you're trying to hold hope, like, or you're just saying it's not worth it?
I noticed a lot of spots he was on waivers, and so I picked him up in spots that I needed a quarterback, or even if I had one on a bye, like I didn't put a ton of fab on him, but there were spots that I had some extra fab, and so I threw him. But I just don't think, like, I wouldn't go out and buy Cooper Rush. I wouldn't spend anything for him. Maybe I would. I guess I would do a fourth, but he's a starting quarterback, so no one, I don't think, is going to sell him for a fourth, right? He's going to have a game where he's going to put up a few, like, solid amount of points. He's got good weapons, so I think that will elevate him a bit. So I personally would not go out and buy him. I'll get him off of waivers, but I won't, like, sell anything, or, like, I won't buy him for anything.
And so I had an offer, and I had a team that was, I think, 5-4, kind of middle of the pack, and I lost the quarterback too, and they sent me Cooper Rush for a third, and I just declined it. I was like, I'd rather just play a player in my spot instead. Yep. I just don't think it's helpful.
I know it's very slim that, like, a third rounder can be anything, but we've had years that they have, like Puka was a fourth. There's things that you never know, and I'd rather have that spot than, we already know what Cooper Rush is. He's a backup quarterback. You're going to use him maybe if you don't have a good option. Like, I would feel comfortable playing a position player versus a quarterback in that flex spot.
Yeah.
That was my thinking.
I'm just going with position player too, man.
We know Cooper Rush is bad and doesn't have a ceiling. A third round pick, it probably won't, but it could. I mean, Tyrone Tracy was a third round pick this year for a while too. And that sleeper, I remember he was so far down because he got added in late. His ADP was so far down. He was a free third round pick, just anywhere you wanted him for a while.
So I mean, it's a pure dart throw, but Cooper Rush is nothing, in my opinion. I'd rather have that dart throw than kind of nothing.
It's a dart throw with a pointed needle at the end instead of a dart throw with a hole.
Nothing,
right?
I like that.
So.
Right.
And then kind of the Zach. I know you probably might have touched it already, but Zach Moss, that's kind of a bummer. I think that's obviously why we saw Khalil Herbert go into Cincinnati. Obviously the last couple of weeks we've seen it. Chase Brown kind of taking over. But I just think last year's Zach Moss was in, like, a perfect spot when Jonathan Taylor was out. I think that offensive line is better in Indianapolis than Cincinnati. So I think that's kind of what elevated Zach Moss last year.
Definitely. In other news, JMO is reinstated. That was official. So we do get a player back. Don't you shrug your shoulders with all these injuries, McSpanky.
Okay.
You know you'd love to have a JMO in your roster to toss.
I mean, if you have him, you're probably going to have to start him at this point because he's the only one that's healthy.
I mean, and we've
add players.
We've seen like Khalif Raymond got a few touchdowns, and then Tim Patrick, I think, almost got a touchdown or did, and so obviously he's better than those guys. So I feel good if I have JMO and he's coming back.
Oh,
yeah, definitely. Jared Goff. Okay, let's get into the dynasty updates here. We got Daniel Jones holding on to his job for dear life. What did he have, like 5 passing yards in the first half of that game this weekend and 1 touchdown?
So how did it finish?
So
much better. That's for sure. I just remember
it did, and I was looking at his like stats and stuff, and I put him down here just because we've heard it that, like, the Giants aren't playing well. He doesn't look very good, but in terms of fantasy points, he's doing solid because of that rushing, right? And so he's not somebody that I would go out and acquire. He's somebody that I'm hoping he has another good game or two, and I can move off of him, just because long term I don't really see it being a thing. Like, he cannot. It's just the passing is so bad. I think they know, kind of, honestly, I feel like they know what he is, and so they have to be. If they continue to lose, they have to be going in a different direction. We already saw, like we saw last year on the off season, the new Hard Knocks going into the NFL draft, we kind of saw that the front office wanted to move away from him, especially Dable wanted to go away from him. Yeah, they just can't.
Yeah, they tried mightily hard to move up for any of the quarterbacks.
I feel like Brian Dable has to scheme specifically around a very limited quarterback skill set.
Yeah,
and so you're getting like a quarter of the offense that he wants to run, and ultimately it might cost him his job. So I think I definitely think before the year's out, we definitely see Drew Lock. It's just a matter of when does that happen.
Yep.
Well, we've already seen once.
Yeah, we have. I know we kind of shat on Anthony Richardson last week, but in my head, I was kind of thinking, like, we kind of know what Daniel Jones is. If you are on a team where you're kind of like middling, would you move Daniel Jones for Anthony Richardson?
I mean, sure, but I'd rather not have either.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But that was kind of what I'm thinking. Is like you probably can't get much for Daniel Jones, so like maybe Anthony Richardson will be something. So I know where your heads are at, but I just say like it's probably a solid pivot there for somebody like a middling team getting those points off of Daniel Jones. Maybe he has a good another week or two. Obviously, they're playing Carolina, so that's always a nice boost. But yeah, just kind of where I have Daniel Jones, he's pretty far down there, and so I was just trying to think of like what could I get for him.
Some of these Daniel Jones trades are wild, by the way. Like there's him straight up for Braylon Allen, him for a 25-2, him for a 25-6, or sorry, a 26-3. Sorry, and then Daniel Jones for 26-3 and Jalen Wright. Like it's just all over the map.
Yeah, I was thinking probably like a second is what you could get. But like if somebody's really down on Anthony Richardson, maybe you can move him. I've been trying to. So I have a team where I have like 5 quarterbacks. I took 3 in the rookie draft last year. I had a bunch of picks, and so I have a spot where I'm trying to move Anthony Richardson, and just I can't really get anything worth. And so it's at that rate, I'd rather hold him. I don't have to use him. I have other guys, so it's like it's tough. I mean, in that spot, I also have Daniel Jones. So. But in something like that, if I had Daniel Jones and didn't have Anthony Richardson, if I have a couple other quarterbacks, that's like a pivot. I feel like I think I might do. And with Daniel Jones playing, I think that might be somebody that has Anthony Richardson might do.
You might. I think it's going to be very team dependent.
Totally.
Chances are their team isn't great to begin with.
Yeah, so they
might be just like I don't. There's no point. I'm just gonna hold it. But there's teams where they probably Anthony Richardson was their QB3, and maybe they just lost Dak, and maybe they need someone, and so you can kind of talk yourself into a Daniel Jones if you're desperate. Weird things happen. When teams start losing injuries, people get desperate, and they're like, I gotta play someone.
That's like 1:45 in the morning. The bar is emptying out like that. That kind of desperation, you're turning towards Daniel Jones. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna send. Like I don't even like Anthony Richardson, but I'm not gonna send him for. Yeah, I'm not gonna send him for Daniel Jones. I just can't.
Yeah,
for a position player too, just like on the Cooper Rush thing. But it's definitely worth a shot. We've seen crazier things. That is for sure
out there.
Yep.
All right, we got these wide receivers. Holler, would you like to go on this?
Yes. So I have a formal apology to the gadget man himself, Zay Flowers. Since we called him, well, he had a couple bad games, but I just the Ravens are cooking right now, and so Zay Flowers is playing well. Obviously, they played the Broncos, and their secondary isn't very good, but no slouch putting up 100 and plus and 2 TDs. So I apologize to Zay Flowers and any Zay Flower truthers, because to me he's a solid mid QB2 or excuse me wide receiver 2. So I just feel like the way he used him, the way they use him, he is a gadget guy, right? Not the way they used him against the Broncos though.
I mean, that's 4 of the last 5 weeks. He's gotten over 100 yards, and the only time he didn't was the Tampa Bay game where he got banged up and he clearly wasn't right, and so they kind of use him as a decoy. They are using him to the best of like how he is to his skill set. Whether that's gadgety or not, it's working. So I think they're going to keep doing it. And the Ravens are one of the best passing offenses in the league right now, which is crazy. Lamar's just dealing. So, and Zay Flowers is the engine that's going, and it also helps have Derrick Henry that defenses have to respect, which is probably helping open some lanes there. But
Lamar,
there's a lot of single coverage out there. That's for sure.
Yep, Lamar, Zay Flowers, and Derrick Henry just are cooking right now, and so I forgot to do it, but I wanted to move him up in my tier of wide receivers with Tank, Debo, Worthy, and Pittman. I used to have Pittman up even higher, but kind of in those. He's probably the top of that wide receiver kind of tier for me. And so, I just think right now he is in a really good spot, and you feel really good if he's on your team.
Definitely.
Would you try to cash out on Zay Flowers with where he's at right now? Because he's kind of on a 4-game high. You're holding. What if I offered you the 105? It's the 105.
Oh
yes,
boy,
I would take that.
Yeah, that seems like over. I mean, I have him as like a late first kind of guy, like in that area, because there are going to be some down weeks for sure with Zay. I mean, you can look and see
that's where I have him too.
Across there. Yeah, no, 105 for sure. I guess I'll take an overpay, but the thing is, like, he's super good. The Ravens are super good. They're a well-run organization. Like, I don't see it going away unless he just like absolutely falls off a cliff and just disappears, from the face of the earth.
Yeah. It seems like right now they want to get him the ball, and so like we kind of saw it. Mark Andrews is playing a little bit better, but to me he's the first option when passing the ball, and they get him the ball and to kind of run as well. And so for me, like, since I also do a bit of Devy, like, and I watch a lot of college, is like at 105, I don't know if you're going to get one of those top wide receivers. I think it may be, unfortunately, it's going to maybe be it could be a second or third running back, but it's probably going to be the like quarterbacks that are not very we don't know exactly how they're going to be right now, right? And so I would need to have a solid amount of wide receivers to feel good about moving that 105.
The 105 feels like it's at the high end of a big kind of tier where you're going to be like the 105 to like the 109, 110, where you don't necessarily care which one you get.
Sure.
I mean, but that's probably a discussion we have in the off season. But
yeah, totally. Yeah. But yeah, just like thinking ahead, it's like, I don't know, maybe I'd rather have Zay Flowers, right, versus that 105 to 109 mid, right at this point. Unless somebody emerges, I just feel like right at this point, Zay Flowers, if I was ranking, throwing in college guys as well, I'd have Zay Flowers ahead of whoever would be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't get that far. I'm not into the Devy as far as you guys, so I can get like the top 2 wide receivers in Genty, and then I'm like, all right, I see what you guys are saying.
So that's kind of where my head was going, right? There might be one other player that would probably be ahead, and maybe not even after that. Right, those are the only 3 guys that I can think of right now that I would feel good other than Zay Flowers. There's everything else has to be, everything else has to be perfect fit. So I just think, off the top of my head, give me Zay Flowers over that 105.
Sure.
Even though it feels like an overpay.
Quinshon Judkins is a name to keep an eye on too. He's really good.
Oh yeah, I do like Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, so there's another couple running backs I feel like, so it just depends. It would be at that point team dependent. If you have a good amount of wide receivers and you need a running back, then maybe. But I think at this point right now, what I know and probably what the majority of people is, in my opinion, you probably want to just hold Zay Flowers.
I think so too.
Yeah, very fair there. Did we have a JSN breakout game happen finally?
I mean, I think so. He's playing really well.
Stats were really good. Like A-Dot was good. The yards per route run was good. So I think the biggest thing is DK was out. So I want to see it a little bit more when he's back. But
with DK,
if that can continue and we have like maybe he has like 65 yards and a touchdown, or 65 to 80 yards and no touchdown, then I can feel like a little bit better about JSN. But it was really good to see with Dak out, or excuse me, with DK out, to JSN have a really good game. Now I know they were playing the Rams and their secondary is god awful, but we've seen it. The Rams are on a win streak. Their team is solid. They have a really good coach, and so it was good to see JSN have a really good game.
He had a decent game against Buffalo the week before, and they do have a good passing defense. He was 6 for 69. I mean, he's done it just in spurts. It's not as consistent as you would like yet, but I think it's there. It's just I don't know if it's a Tyler Lockett thing, and it's just like when Lockett's gone, I think we've been saying that for forever, and JSN can kind of be the two, then he starts to show out. Like with DK out, and it was him and Lockett, he did well. It's just like the third option that offense just isn't getting enough, or some of the volume is like getting split between him and Lockett, and so that's why there's some of those boom bust kind of games. But I think the talent's there. I think it's just a matter of is it. And let's be honest, dude, Geno Smith isn't always the most consistent quarterback in the world, and I think that plays a bigger part of this.
We saw it. Like he threw some terrible interceptions, and so he gets yards. He slings the ball a bit.
Yeah.
So I think with these last two games, we're just hoping that maybe JSN has now taken like a step ahead of Lockett. I know Lockett's always is there, and we always say like, oh, let's wait until he leaves. But maybe it's a new coaching staff, right? So maybe they see it now. Okay, JSN is actually a better player than Tyler Lockett. We should probably get him the ball versus getting Tyler Lockett the ball. So I think once DK's back and we see a little bit more, I think if you have JSN as like a wide receiver 4, this might be a time to move off of him, because I think he's probably going to have another dip once DK is back. But overall, I think in my opinion, he's a hold. Because I think once Tyler Lockett's not on the team, he's going to be a really good like 1-2 punch.
What do you think the market is on JSN right now?
It is wild, from what I can see from the trades, because I see JSN for Ricky Pearsall straight up.
Holy smokes!
JSN for Tyrone Tracy and Jalen Warren. Somebody traded JSN and a 2025 first round pick for Calvin Ridley.
Holy smokes! Where are you seeing this on Dynasty Daddy?
Yeah.
So
yep.
I see it now too.
I have him between a late first and early 2 personally right now.
Yeah, that's where I have him as well.
Right?
And then I saw this one here, which I think is kind of a toss up right now with JSN being up high, and then it's JSN straight up for Rome Odunze. I think I would take Rome Odunze because to me, long term, he's more of your top tier. I don't know. I think
are they the same? Are they secretly the same person?
Yeah, that I think that's what I'm saying. Like that's a solid one because it could be a coin flip versus like where do you fall? So that's a solid one. But overall, like you said, Ron, that like I agree, it's all over the place in trades, and so for me, he feels like a hold.
How about this one? JSN and Zach Ertz for James Cook. That's a 0.75 on the tight end premium.
Probably take the JSN side if I'm not competing.
Yeah, so I have JSN a few spots lower than in the same tier, but a few spots lower than James Cook, and so I'm probably taking JSN and Ertz.
Just because I feel like James Cook is one of those things that I just can't fully buy in to him either. Like he plays really well, but I don't know. Like at what point do they replace him? I don't think he does anything like exceptionally well where it's like, oh, he has to be our guy. And it might be when his contract is over, he doesn't re-sign or they draft a replacement of him. But not to mention Josh Allen can still go and carry the tiny ones.
I agree.
I think I am on the James Cook side of that one.
Yeah, I just think
I'm just not a huge JSN guy. I've never been a huge JSN guy, and I like James Cook. And he's kind of the same thing as like Zay for me. It might not be the prettiest thing in the world all the time, but he plays for a really good organization in a really good offense. And there's some pretty big weeks in there for James Cook. And, I know there's the emergence of Ray Davis, and we see Ty Johnson get on the field, but I still think, James Cook is the guy until proven otherwise. And I don't want to just, say that they are going to go out there and get somebody. They could, they definitely could. But until they do that, I don't think there's a reason to, shy away from it.
Yeah. I mean, because Ray Davis has had some really good games. And so he has not taken James Cook off the field, obviously.
No.
So, they believe in both of them. And, I think, I think that one there is like just a pick there, like decide which one you want there. Cause for me, I have them in the same tier. To me, I don't think it's like a free Zach Ertz. Like I know Zach Ertz is something this year, but that's going to be like, he's a super old tight end. So, and that's not enough premium for me to be like, ooh, awesome. I'm really grabbing an extra asset there.
Right. And that's got to be a little bit of contender. Maybe I need a tight end, and how do I work myself into one, to get one in there. That's what I think. Okay. Cortland Sutton refuses to die. And he's throwing passes now too.
Crazy.
Yeah, just throwing dots out there.
Throwing dots to Bo Nix.
So I put him on here just because he's been having a couple really good games, but I didn't really move him in my rankings. He's a little bit of an older wide receiver, but he's being used a lot. He's like Bo Nix is really throwing the ball to him a ton. There's nobody else on their team, really. I know Troy Franklin is playing better. But I just think for this year, he's going to be be a really solid wide receiver too. Like if you are kind of in a playoff spot, you feel really good about your team, he could be a guy you can go out and try to buy on like probably a second. It's something that you probably would have to pay because he's probably, he's probably already on some better teams. But if you have, if he's on a team that is not doing so well, and I think since he's had a couple like over 100-yard games I think maybe 2 of the last games, he's going to be a little more expensive than usual. So he's probably up to like a second round pick in order to acquire him.
Yeah, I would just be careful with Cortland Sutton and the expectations of him, just because of the 100-yard games came against Carolina and Baltimore. And even though, I was just singing the praises of Baltimore, their pass defense has been pretty bad.
Totally.
Yeah. They play the Chiefs this weekend in Arrowhead. So,
we'll see. Yeah.
This will be a really good test for Bo Nix. And like, I know overall the Chiefs have a really good defense. So it's going to be a really good test for Bo Nix. And if Cortland Sutton has another good game of like 60 to 80 yards, then I kind of feel like he's going to be solid for you for the rest of the year.
Sure. Definitely.
Oh, and
I think like
Chiefs have a really
they have a really good defense overall. So their corners are good. They're just up and down their whole roster. Their defense is really, really good. One of the better ones in the NFL.
I was gonna say I forget I think it's a McDuffie. Is that their corner that they have out in Kansas City? It's like if you look at wide receiver ones that have gone up against Kansas City, they've been held to like basically under 50 yards every week, and it's not even close.
Tough.
So Cortland might be in for bad.
So
pick.
Maybe wait 1 week and then
and buy him off that game.
Yeah. So I just pulled up some trades. You can get him for cheap. Jaylen Warren and a third for Cortland Sutton. This was 2 days ago. Jacob Cowing and Alec Pierce for Cortland Sutton. That's awesome. Smash. Like, these are on Dynasty Daddy, so it's a little, hit or miss, but like Stephon Diggs for Cortland Sutton. Like if I lost Stephon Diggs and someone's willing to go out and like buy him, I would do that as well. So I just think he's somebody that probably you could acquire. I've a couple of seconds here. So that's kind of what I think if you needed to go out, if you wanted to go out and buy him and you need him for like this week, which I don't suggest. But I think you're going to have to pay a second.
Yeah, definitely agree on the second. I paid a second earlier in the season, and I regretted it up until like the last 2 weeks, but he's been fine.
Sure.
That team's ravaged by injuries too, which is just going wonderful.
I bought him 2 weeks ago I had it right here. It wasn't any picks. It was, where was it? Jalen Tolbert and Trey Palmer. So
Okay.
I think it
Yeah,
was that
I'd
was
do that.
12 days ago. So I just feel like it just depends the market and what people think. That was Tolbert coming off a couple good games. Trey Palmer thinking he was going to be something after the injuries in Tampa Bay. So yeah, just see what the market is in your leagues for a guy like Courtland Sutton, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Mr. QJ Quentin Johnston has shown up all over the fantasy scores. Kind of just caveat here with Quentin Johnston has scored 30.8 fantasy points on busted coverages this year. That's 53% more than any other player and accounts for 44% of his total fantasy output. So he's definitely done it, but also like I would be very like buyer beware, very cautious on QJ. Like I'm not gonna send a second for Quentin Johnston. How about you guys?
No, I still want nothing to do with him. So first of all, if almost half of his fantasy output has been on bust coverages, and that's only like 31 points. The math ain't mathin' there. He's basically. I'm just looking at his fantasy finishes every week. He's had an 11th and a 7th week, which is probably the 2 weeks he had those two big busted coverage plays. Other than that, it's like 60, 38, 89, 72. Like he's hurting you more than he's ever helping you. And you can't rely on busted coverages. And I think he's just gotten just really lucky having to be the recipient on a couple of them.
I think
later in the season it should happen less, I would assume.
Yeah, and I think the biggest surprise out of that is, I know it's a busted coverage, but to be honest, it's kind of a surprise catching the ball. And so like, yes,
He's bringing him in.
Yeah. So like, he was on one of the trades that I talked about earlier with Dak Prescott in a second for Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton. And QJ. I try to maneuver some things and maybe get a different piece than QJ, but there really wasn't nothing there to make that happen. But so I didn't feel good about acquiring him just because of this busted coverage is not going to happen in my opinion. I think Ladd is the more receiver you want in for the Chargers. So like I didn't move QJ anywhere in my rankings. He's still down pretty low. I think I need to see him do things like against I don't want to say normal, but like a normal defense.
Even if it's a bad defense, just not him running by himself with no one else on screen. Like, you see him do it against someone that with a pulse that's around him. Which I don't know if he has it in him because we've seen about a year and a half of now, and it's not like he's been buried in depth charts like we saw last year when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams ran. He was like, it was practice squad guys that were playing better than he was catching the ball. So I just don't think the dude can play.
I'm with you.
Definitely agree there. Okay, down to some running backs. Is Devon Achane now a top 5 running back in the NFL? Now that Tua is back on the field, I will say.
So I put this in there because I was kind of looking at where I have him, and I have him right at 5, right? And at 6 is Kenneth Walker, Saquon Barkley, Kyren Williams, and Christian McCaffrey are all together right there, right? If we see Christian McCaffrey come back and play really well, I'm probably going to flip Christian McCaffrey up above Devon Achane, right? Some weeks I'd rather have Kyren Williams and Devon Achane. But the one thing is Achane's younger than Kyren. I think Achane's in a better situation only because he's on that rookie contract. He has more years than Kyren does. The Rams could move on from Kyren. We've seen it before with Todd Gurley and the Rams. We've seen it with other running backs that they draft. So I just think the landscape of running backs, Achane's up there, but I don't really feel good about it, to be honest. Like, I don't want to pay to acquire him right now since he's going off right now. We've seen it before. He's been banged up, but he's playing really, really well. He's staying on the field. I think he's gotten a little bit of the benefit of Mostert being injured, and then he had a fumble. So I just think overall, I think he's kind of baked into that running back 5, but it's in my opinion in a volatile spot because you can pick with a couple of those other guys all the way down to running back 10. Like you could mix and match with any of those guys 5 to 10.
I agree. So I have him at 6. I have him a little bit below Jonathan Taylor and Saquon at 4 and 5. And to me, it's just one of those things. Like if I'm going to acquire a top end running back, I just feel better about acquiring a Saquon or a Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
It gives me more warm and fuzzy feelings putting him in my lineup than H.N. does. Just knowing that H.N.'s been a little bit of a glass cannon where it's like he's when he's on the field when Tua, because it's not just him staying healthy, it's Tua staying healthy too.
Yep.
Because when Tua's out, the whole offense goes kaput. H.N.'s had his own injuries that he's dealt with, and so it just feels like you're fighting multiple things going against him. In the path of something going wrong, it just seems easier. Whereas with Saquon and Jonathan Taylor, I mean, the Colts have had bad quarterback play and he's been fine. Saquon, he's played with a bad quarterback his whole career until this year. So I know those guys can. It's not just them staying healthy. It's I know that they can survive bad offenses and still be useful.
Totally agree. That's kind of why I put him on there, just because I think, I honestly might feel better about I think him and Kenneth Walker are more like neck and neck, and I think I feel better about having Saquon and CMC above HN there, and I just think with the way he is, he's very, I wouldn't say boom or bust, but it kind of is because he's basically tied to Tua. If Tua's not there, he's kind of, that whole offense sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have HN, Kenneth Walker, and Kyren Williams all back to back at 6, 7, 8 in my rankings. Which I think, honestly, that I'd probably, if I had to, I'd probably take Kyren over any of them just because I feel better about his usage.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
usage and offense for sure. Definitely.
I just worry after this year with Kyren.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They drafted Blake Corum and they're still. Yeah. I think Sean McVay likes. I think Matthew Stafford does too. I think really likes Kyren Williams because he's a good pass blocker. And
Well, I mean, Kyren didn't really get used his rookie year, so I guess I could see, what the concern would be, with Blake Corum coming into that second year,
definitely,
possibly within the offense. But
I don't worry too much about Corum per se. I kind of feel like the Rams can move on from guys very, very quickly. So I just, but if he's there, he's top 8 running back for sure. Usage is there. He plays really well. Everybody loves him in LA. I hope he stays. I just worry about a little bit about that.
And realistically, these guys are probably all going to go below Genti for sure. And then some of the rookies in there too, if they get good landing spots, like Quinshon Judkins, if he goes somewhere nice, then all of a sudden these guys are instead of being fringe top 5, they're pushing towards the bottom 10. So they're the chance to acquire. I think you're better off waiting than doing it now.
Totally. Especially with HN, I know maybe right now he might be, around there 5 or 6, but just moving forward, you never know with him with the injury, with tied to Tua, just the way he is as a running back, he's a smaller guy. And so, I just think right now he's being propped up with that running, or excuse me, his pass catching.
Yeah, the pass catching is phenomenal. That's for sure. 16 targets in the past 2 games.
Yep.
And 16 targets, which is wild. Okay. Chase Brown stuck up, or did Khalil Herbert kind of put a damper on that?
I don't think it necessarily put a damper on it a ton. I don't think it's gonna I think Chase Brown needs another running back there with him, and I think this is just he's still going to be the 1A, and Herbert will kind of be more of a complimentary back. So I am excited to see what Chase Brown does, but I'm also not going out to buy him. I don't think he's ever going to be the guy, but I think he can be a nice piece.
Yeah, I think he's like a poor man's Tony Pollard kind of say per se. He can't be
what an insult.
He can't be that workhorse running back.
God. Oh, I'm just gonna tilt so hard tonight. Oh Lord.
I mean, he's like
Lord.
not that good. He's just fine. Yeah, exactly.
He's
He's
explosive,
good.
dude.
He's fine.
He looks good
He's
with the ball in his hand. Whatever. You guys will see. You guys will see. Okay, how high up are you guys going to move Cade Otton?
So I can tell you, I just sold him for a mid first and a 26-2 in a start to tight end league. And here's kind of where I was at with that one. So one, my team was pretty middling in that league, but two, so weeks 1 through 6, that's where it was, him, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the whole shebang. He had a 15% target share, 6 and a little over. So 6.7 points per game. In week 7, that's when Mike Evans left that game early. Chris Godwin got hurt. So the last 3 weeks here, 7 through 9, he's had a 24.6% target share and up to 22.9 points per game. I think this is more a product of him skyrocketing due to no one else being on the field. Other than, it's like Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan is a rookie, and to his credit, he's healthy and he's catching the ball. He's doing great stuff. But when Evans and Godwin come back, or if they draft a wide receiver high next year and there's other weapons healthy in that offense, does he go back to kind of being that just kind of ho-hum? He's a fine option, but that goes kind of back to the, maybe like 7 points a game instead of 22. And so that was more my thinking, was just to kind of cash out a little bit.
I was doing my rankings changes and I put him on here because I was like, oh, okay, I need to move Otton up. Obviously, he's been playing really well, and like I couldn't put him up higher than 10. Like that's the highest I could get him. Like tight end 10, yeah. He's in my rank like around tier 12, like in the top of that tier is like a late first, 2025 late first, and so like if you can get a late first for Cade Otton, I would do it. If you have another, tight end, maybe you have also have a Dallas Goedert, or you also have, who do I have here lower? Like, even if I have a Cole Kmet and I can get another guy next year, maybe, then I would do it. I would feel okay with it because, yes, I know Cole Kmet hasn't been very good, but I think
he's been fine.
Otton's been, Cole Kmet's been fine, and Otton I think is going to kind of regress back to that 6 to 8 points per game, even when just Mike Evans comes back. I saw a tweet that Kincaid and Laporta have never had a stretch where, Otton's had 8 for 100, 9 for 81 and 2 touchdowns, 8 for 77 and a touchdown, and Kincaid and Laporta have never had a stretch like that, right? But if you think about it and put Otton on the Bills and the Lions, there's no way he's going to have that stretch, right? So I just think you got to think about all the what's happening, and I think this is just kind of he's being inflated right now.
Definitely. Well, he shouldn't be crazy. He's even hitting our Ottens.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep him right next to Cole Kmet, I think. Okay. You guys
so for me, he's like.
Oh, okay.
I don't find that to be crazy at all. Like he's just in the tier above Cole Kmet. He's right in there with Ferguson, Njoku, and Kelsey and Ingram.
That's where I have him too.
That's as high as I can get him.
That big cluster.
I just feel better about my guys like Hawkinson, Kittle, and everybody else above him.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, you guys want to get into our starts of the week here?
Let's go.
Do it.
I had to dig deep for mine, guys. We talked about this in the DMs a little bit. It's kind of like a mass slate to find some sneaky guys for people to start here. So my quarterback is Kirk Cousins. The Saints seemingly don't want to be on the field right now. They just traded away their best corner, and Swag Surf and Kirk is just going to be out there cooking.
Love it, dude.
I think it's good even without if Drake London doesn't play. I think it's going to be solid.
Yeah,
I think that game's going to be
McLeod, baby.
Yeah, I think that game's going to be good. I kind of crapped on him earlier, but I have Daniel Jones this week. Start anybody that's playing the Panthers. Daniel Jones has been good for fantasy terms. He gets yards on the ground. Last week he finally threw a touchdown. I think it was like almost, I don't know if it was, I think close to 600 days before he had a touchdown at home, which is insane. So like I think he'll be a solid QB2 this week, playing the Panthers, and I think his better days ahead with the passing yards.
Yep, I like that. I have Sam Darnold over against Jacksonville. It's a very fantasy-friendly defense. The Jaguars are. Darnold's kind of been telling that line where you're probably starting him anyways, but I think I would even go as far as starting him over guys like Baker Mayfield, G.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels this week. I would really like Sam Darnold a lot with that matchup.
Whew, Jaden Daniels. Wow.
They're playing Pittsburgh, so
yeah, no, I get
it. It's a good defense, and I think give the
money on
matchups
Pittsburgh
over
this
the
week.
talent.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I did.
So
okay. For my running back, I got Najee Harris. Commanders are giving up 115 yards on the ground. Najee surpassed 100 yards in the past 3 weeks. I think with Russ out there, the offense is, a little bit more functional than what Justin Fields was allowing Najee to do. And the Steelers just want to pound the ball and keep that ball out of Jaden Daniels' hand. So I think, wheels up for Najee this week.
Yep. And I feel like with Russ as the quarterback, they're going to, run the ball a bit more. Justin Fields was kind of going to run on his own a little bit, so it's going to take away from the running back. So Najee has looked really, really good. Mine's Tyrone Tracy. No surprise. Doubling up on the Giants, obviously, because they're playing the Panthers. I know it's never good to put your eggs all with the Giants, but Tyrone Tracy has looked really good when he's playing as the lead back. Last week he got 72% of the offensive snaps, 17 touches, and 66 rushing yards. So I know he was playing the Commanders and they give up a lot of rushing yards, but the Giants overall they were down and behind, and so I think this week they're going to be probably playing with or ahead the Panthers, and so I just think it's going to be a good week for Tracy. I think he gets in the end zone.
Saquon who? Am I right?
Let's go.
Oh Lord.
Running back for me, Tyler Algier. They're playing the Saints. The Saints don't want to be around anymore. I know Bijan obviously is the choice there. You're probably already starting Bijan, but I feel like Tyler Algier might be a guy that you're tempted to play in the flex, and I think this is a game where they get up real big, and I think he finds the end zone and gets quite a bit of work because they're going to run the ball a ton.
He scored last week.
Exactly, and they'll do it again. 2 in a row.
He'll do it again. Okay, my wide receiver, I got my guy, Ricky Pears. I think he's got a few games under his belt here. They also are coming off the bye week. I think that's definitely going to be helpful for Ricky and his development, as a rookie. And the Buccaneers are giving it up through the air. So I think there's a possibility Ricky could finally, show something on the field. And he's been fine-ish, but we'd like
he was solid.
Yeah,
he was good the game before the bye. So I know Debo went out, but he was good then. Mine, I got to give some more love to Zay Flowers. I know this is probably an obvious one, but it's a Thursday night game, so I just want to remind everybody to get him in your lineup. He's going to have another really good game. I know sometimes the divisional games are low scoring. But the way last time Ravens Bengals was a high scoring game, so I think this will as well. I think the Baltimore secondary is not very good. So they're both going to need, I think the Bengals are going to be able to score. So the Ravens are going to need to score as well. So I feel really good about Zay Flowers the rest of the season.
I think you guys are going to like this one. There's been a slow, steady drumbeat of cokeheads on Twitter lately, just rising up. Jalen Coker, the undrafted free agent out of Holy Cross. He is one of 3 active wide receivers for the Carolina Panthers, and that alone is basically why he's one of my starts of the week. He's basically free. He's on a ton of waivers, too. Even still, the last 2 games, he's had a first read rate of 19%. A yards per route run of 2.59 and 2 end zone targets, including a touchdown. He should see plenty of action against the Giants team, and like I said, he's one of 3 wide receivers on the roster, so he's going to be out there a ton. So
So
see what happens.
Fun fact: I liked Coker going into the draft process
too.
and everything. Is unfortunately he didn't get drafted, but of course he's landed with the Panthers, and there's nobody else there. So he's been solid. So pretty stoked. I have a good amount of him. There are spots where I maybe was thinking about dropping him, but I ended up keeping him. There's a taxi spot, So
Start him. Throw him in there.
Yeah,
if needed, I will.
Yeah, bust out the coat, guys. Anyway, so my tight end start of the week is Juwan Johnson. The Saints are without Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed once again. So there's just, should be some targets out there for Juwan. It might not be pretty, but there's nobody else to throw the ball to right now in New Orleans. So
Yep. I think it's going to be him, Taysom Hill, and Alvin Kamara. That's about it. So my start of the week is Taysom Hill. We always hate when we see a Taysom Hill touchdown, to be honest. He's just an annoyance because he takes rushing away. He takes sometimes he throws the ball, so he takes away from Kamara. But last week he got 5 carries, 5 targets, and scored a touchdown. So they use him all over the field. So I feel good about him in your starting lineup. If you lost Dak, throw him in your super flex and hope he throws.
I feel like I should have used Foster Moreau as my tight end of the week, so we hit all 3 of them. I went with Mike Gesicki at Cincinnati. Higgins isn't practicing; he's doubtful for tomorrow night. Eric All just tore his ACL. He had a ton. He went off last week against the Raiders. I know it was the Raiders, but Baltimore's defense really hasn't been that great either. They're giving up on average 5.5 catches and 68 yards a game to opposing tight ends. Like I said, he's not like a fun person that you ever want to start, but I think he's just quietly doing really well and should do well again this week. So throw him in there.
Yep. I was bummed in one of my redrafts. I forgot to do waivers, and I could have gotten him, and it would have been nice to have him in that flex spot. Or, it would have been tight end this because it's Thursday night, but it would have been nice to have him.
Sure.
Bad news bears.
Yeah, definitely. Well, do you guys have anything else for the beautiful people?
Other than hating T. Higgins.
No.
Nope.
God. T. Higgins, man. God damn it.
So sad. So sad.
Yeah. I got nothing, but thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, join our Discord, and let's chat. But that's it. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.
Peace.